call it Crystalis. I could call it Crystalis. I'm just going to call it Godslayer and get out of the whole thing. But Dragondarch's the one that's running the game, so let's take it over to you, Dragondarch.
Woo! Bob, you're a smart person.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Oh, hello, everyone. Welcome to Crystalis. So the first thing I need to do is give a shout-out to my buddy, Matrick, who over the years has been helping me just gradually route this and optimize the route, and just has overall been a huge help in just bringing the time down from what it was back in the old SDA days. And then I also need to give another shout-out to Overswarm, who 2 days ago discovered a new skip that required me to reroute a whole bunch of the game in the last 36 hours. I've had enough time to do 2 full runs with it. The route works. I don't have muscle memory built for it, so I have to curse him at the same time as giving him a shout out for putting me through this. But he absolutely discovered a huge skip that we'd been searching for a long time. But beyond that, we have on the couch with me, we've got the Axeman, who created the Crystalis tool-assisted speedrun. How long ago now?
Oh, shoot. 7, 8, maybe. Longer than I want to admit.
Yeah, it's been a long time since that went up.
And I think he's forgotten more about this game than most people know about it, too.
But his TAS was actually something that I referenced a lot, along with his notes, to help craft this route. And we kind of went back to it to see what we could pull from that and make humanly possible. And on my left here, we have Poexel, who has been on the couch for every single Crystalis run I have done for any major marathon, and has actually picked up the game himself finally.
Yes, I do. Still need to beat UA's time, though.
It only took us how many years to get you to run it?
A lot.
All right. Do we have a file name?
We do. The file name will be Fox.
F-O-X?
F-O-X.
Capitalization?
Capital F, lowercase o, lowercase x. And speaking of names, we are also cutting off the Final Fantasy taskbot thing, so they have time to program those for the upcoming run.
So Dwango has time to program those because I'm stealing the Axeman on the couch.
I wrote the script.
You can fight that out amongst yourself. I am not fighting taskbot. I can see what he does to video games.
All right, I am going to get started. I'll give you a count. We start on character control, so it'll be after all this flashing and stuff happens. I also want to know, I'm not going to be doing a lot of talking during this because there's not much in the way of downtime. I'm going to leave a lot of that to these two. And 3, 2, 1, go.
So the start here, very good. Skipping the talking to the girl, one of the first mini bosses here. No armor, which there's so first of all, we have a shop glitch. So if you move the cursor real fast in the shop, you get to swap the prices between items that are next to each other. And if the spot that you move from is blank, you get it for free. In this case, there weren't any empty spots in the item shop, but we were able to get a little discount on some things here.
Yeah, he was able to get both an alarm flute and an antidote for less money than he has right now, basically.
So the route through here, we're kind of going through in a loop-de-loop to find more enemies.
Yeah, one very important thing to point out as we're getting started with the run, too, is that every enemy and boss in the game has a minimum level that your hero needs to be in order to cause any kind of damage to them at all. So a huge part of the routing for the speed run is just is leveling up as efficiently as possible so that you hit that minimum level requirement for every enemy just in time that you need it.
So if we take out enemies on our way, then we don't really have to do much grinding, or at least a little less.
Okay, I'm right on track for experience right now.
Awesome.
I changed up the route here slightly. I found something that's a little more consistent but doesn't actually save any time, but it eliminates basically the entire slime grind, which is RNG. The slimes can just sometimes push you right back in the room. Hello? Throw the key.
Yeah, this is like a remote keyless entry for a car or something. As far as starting up the windmill there, you just need to step inside the shack and the whole interior of it counts.
Somehow the windmill's set up to blow up the entrance to a cave. So this is the first grind
Hello?
sequence.
Nope,
and
nope. Slime was not cooperative. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, a more simple way to do, because he does want to hit level 2 before getting into the Cave to Brynmare, the first dungeon. The more kind of simple way to do it is just to keep going in and out of the windmill cave and respawn that slime, but looks like we're doing something a little more advanced here with these tigers.
So the task just goes in and out of the cave, but
Way more times than I wanted to be.
so the tigers are more predictable. They move just they're sort of meandering towards you all the time. So their movement is a lot more predictable. The slimes move completely randomly, which again, these slugs also do.
Yeah, and we haven't actually seen it yet, too, but one of the really defining things about this game is that you have 4 swords that you acquire tied to 4 elements, wind, fire, water, and thunder. And you can charge them up to actually shoot magical projectiles, but you notice that all of the combat he's done so far, he's just stabbing the enemies, preferably up against walls. He doesn't knock them back, too. That just, for pretty much all of the combat in this game, with a few exceptions, is way faster than actually charging. Because do you want to explain how charging works?
Sure.
X-Men?
So you've got to hold still and charge, unless you're playing a task, and then you can charge while you're walking.
I'm jealous of that.
So some enemies spawn as soon as you enter a door, and others spawn. Okay. So other enemies spawn after a little bit of time in a room. So you might have noticed there was a room earlier where DD stopped for a little bit before he kind of went in further. And that was to spawn more enemies so that he can kill them and get their experience. So there was our first charge shot. You have to like sit and charge up that shot, so it's we're probably not going to see it a whole lot. Now in the task, you see it a whole lot because I don't have to stop.
Yeah, because you can just pause on the specific frames, basically, the game actually checks for it. But here we have the vampire, the first boss. This is some pretty annoying randomness here because of his teleport patterns. Bit of a rough pattern here, but we got him.
The bats are really irritating.
Get a fun item drop from the vampire, the rabbit boots, which it lets you jump, but it has some kind of fun side effects that we'll be exploiting
All right, so
about halfway through.
here's where the route changes actually start. I'm actually going to come in here and buy my...
So remember, the empty slot lets you buy things for free. So he can buy as many warp boots as he wants, and that one on the right is a medical herb, so he can get those for free as well.
Yeah, I need to buy the medical herb there. We used to have one we found in the route, but unfortunately that had to be routed out because I don't visit that area anymore.
Yeah, and then you did get a safety antidote in Leaf, the first town, too, just because in the earlier parts of this run, getting poisoned is a very big deal, because the only way to cure poison is either with an antidote, a spell he doesn't have yet, or staying at an inn, and when you don't have a ton of health, getting poisoned generally leads to a death.
So we're going to be doing the new glitch, like, right now. I hope I get this right. Nope, I hit it wrong. Every TV cuts off different at the top, so it's hard to tell exactly where I need to jump. Ah, damn it.
You want to maybe start explaining what he's doing
Okay,
here?
so there is a trigger block that's invisible, and we're trying to avoid this trigger block because if you touch it, it pushes you away and doesn't let you go in.
Yeah.
So this is new territory. This is a new route that was just discovered.
Yeah, he's just done a pretty big skip, by the way, because ordinarily you need to get a gas mask that lets you go into Poison Forest, visit the Village of Oak, get the Sword of Fire, fight a giant insect boss, go to another mountain, learn the teleport spell. But no, we're just skipping all that for now.
All right, now to continue on with the standard route. I still got to get the Sword of Fire. I still got to do my grinding, but I just opened up a warp point up there, so I can just go directly there after I'm done with the grinding.
Yeah, these orcs or axe throwers are
irritating.
They're bad. They're bad news.
These are like one of the worst enemies in the game.
Because not only are the axes they throw problematic for taking damage, but they also count as sprite spawns too, which can interfere with other enemies spawning that we need experience from. Oh.
Get out of the menu.
So there's a limited number of slots that the game can keep track of for enemies, but those slots are also used for things like the trigger blocks that we were going to run into. They're used for things like shots, any sort of projectile. They're also used for the money that sits on the ground after you kill an enemy. So you'll see DD picking up the gold, even if he doesn't need it, even if we can get items for free, we need to pick up that gold so that it doesn't crowd out the slots that we need to empty up so that we can spawn more enemies that we need to kill to get the experience to kill the boss.
Yeah, because again, I mean, there's a minimum level requirement for every enemy and boss, and if we can just get as much experience as we can while just moving through the overworld and dungeons, that cuts down on the amount of time we have to stop and grind.
By the way, I just won that fight.
So this is another interesting glitch. I can't claim credit for this one. By using the warp boots in the fight, you're supposed to have to fight Stom here, and you just kind of stab him, you push him to the end of the room, and then he says, "I give up." But that takes too much time, so we just use a warp boots, and we count the fight as done.
Yeah, and I believe that reset that Dragondarch just did there was to not subtract a warp boots from his inventory after using
and
it.
because I did it so early, it didn't update my position properly in the new town, so it put me like sitting up by the inn rather than at the... wait, I don't do this anymore. I'm so used to going in there getting that insect flute, and now I don't need it anymore.
Which means we've got some other interesting tech here.
Okay, so we got a completely new grind spot for this. But I'm going to restock my warp boots. I don't know how many I need.
So again, that moving the cursor around, we're getting those for free. And we can always just come back here and get those.
Was that a pause to ensure that orc spawned?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, because there is a little bit of randomness to enemy spawns, just because they're all tied to spawn points, basically,
right.
on the map. And yeah, why don't you take it from here?
Okay, so every enemy spawns. So first off, some enemies spawn as soon as you enter the area. So you just enter there, they're there. Other enemies spawn on a timer. This timer is a 256. It goes through 256 numbers. That's one byte, and it's constantly going. You can't see it. But it controls everything. And so when it gets to a certain point on this timer, if that spawn spot is off screen, the enemy spawns. And the game keeps track of all the enemies, even when they're off screen. So even if it's not there, the game still knows it's there. So Dragondarch's making sure that he goes off screen from where the spawn point is, then he comes back. And he doesn't know the value of this timer, so he's kind of just fudging up a little time to give a good chance that they spawn.
Just to make sure that even if he gets like the worst possible timer value, he'll still get the enemy spawn.
Yeah, those axes the axe throwers throw can actually occupy a spawn slot too, so sometimes I have to delay a little bit more when they decide to go get a little trigger happy.
That's something I do find kind of funny about this run too, because ordinarily when you know stuff about the game like this, you want to abuse it to despawn enemies. Basically, you kind of get as few as possible, but again, in this run, we want to get as many as possible under controlled circumstances for leveling up faster.
Now, those two pigmen came down from pretty far away, so some enemies are moving all the time, even when they're off screen. They move a little slower, but they're still moving, so if you kind of wait, they'll eventually get there. And they'll be in this case, they're going to be in range for you to kind of go in there, get them, and keep on with your grind.
I actually need those three to come down. Ooh, the fourth one came down too. That's rare. That's good. That means I'm going to have an extra 8 experience, which will mean I need 1 less zombie now.
So now that we've got that level up, we can go here, which we don't need anything in this area, but we have some enemies here that are worth more experience.
Yeah, then that extra screen transition he did just now, going back to the overworld and then back to Mount Saber South, was to create a checkpoint, basically, in case he were to die here. You would then not have to redo the grind to level 5.
I'm out of grab that coin. Hey, you.
Because every time you enter a screen where you can save the game, that also creates a checkpoint so that you can continue if you die.
I knew I should have picked up that coin. I despawned one of them.
So these ice zombies are going to take a while if you want to read some donations.
I absolutely can. Thank you, X. So I have Mr. Spokes, who donates $5 and says, "Greetings from the Godslayer," says Crystalis, but Rando community. Good luck on your run. I have $15 from Gunarm Dine, who says, "No puns for this one." You're welcome, Bob. Just want a shot at that Godslayer logo, Perla. And I have $100 from Steve Hacks, who says, shout-outs to Dragondarch and the entire Crystalis randomizer community for digging into this excellent game and finding new ways to break it and playing it for all it's worth.
Just want to point out, too, that what he's doing here as far as just kind of pushing the zombies away while he's stabbing with his sword, that is actually way harder than it looks, too, just because there's a very specific rhythm he needs to be swinging his sword at in order to actually hit the zombie without just walking into it and taking damage.
Yeah. It's actually a little wonky because your sword stab starts when you release the B button, not when you press it. So you kind of, you don't actually want to just mash it as much as you can. It's sort of a rhythm.
Hey.
I've got $15 from MPC, who says, "So, Dragondarch, when is the speedrun of Godslayer on Game Boy Color? It has really awesome music."
I know how to run that, actually. Like, I'm not joking. I did route it. Because I'm an idiot.
You said it, I was thinking it.
Everybody was thinking it.
I have $100 from Siri, who says, "All hail our robot overlords." And that was to snipe Siri as one of the names for the TASBot run.
So now we're going back to this checkpoint that he routed in earlier, and you might notice we've got the sword of wind, or we got the sword of fire, we have the sword of wind and the ball of wind, but we don't have the ball of fire. That ball of fire lets you charge to level 2, but as we can see, we've got the level 2 charge square there that says we can charge to level 2.
Yeah, and that's normally required in order to be able to melt ice walls in dungeons, starting right here.
However, I cannot go into the item menu now because it will actually cancel the glitch. So I have to not take too much damage until I get close to the end of this area.
So you can pre-equip things like, I think you still got refresh equipped, so...
No, I have the rabbit boots equipped. I need those. I need those to get around the soldiers.
Okay, so we don't have
hello?
any... Oh.
Get back here.
So here's kind of the next grind spot. In the task, I grind somewhere else, but I don't
am
think
so jealous of that task, but we have tried everything to duplicate that, and we can't do it.
I am pretty impressed at a lot of the tech that you were able to take from the task. I thought it would be task only, and wow, I see you guys doing it, and...
You can actually blame Matt for a lot of that. He was the one who implemented a lot of task stuff that we didn't think was going to be possible initially.
Interesting.
Yeah, this is a rare spot where you actually see some fairly extensive use of the sword charge mechanic, too, just because the positioning of the land anemones, as I call them, just works out nicely that you can kill both of them with one level 2 charge shot and then immediately walk back into the cave to respawn them.
So the level 2 fire charge is actually really useful, much more useful than the level 2 or 1 wind sword, because we get this stream of fire that gets a bunch of hits. You can see you can pretty easily get 3 shots on an enemy, assuming that you don't scroll them off the screen, which is why you see Dee Dee moving up a little, over a little, making sure that second enemy gets all 3 hits. So we've got to get up to 1,200 here, so there's some time for more donations if you got them.
Lovely, thank you. I have $25 from Brillips, who says, "This was the first game I remember watching my older brother playing when I was a kid. So this is an amazing walk down memory lane. Thank you so much for the run."
You're welcome.
$15 from Geister Karl, who says, "I have to get to bed, so a quick donation and a good luck to all the, for me, night runners, especially TASBot, because I heard it's already tired." And $5 from our own LLK, who says, "You thought it was just another Green Rabbit NPC, but it was me, Dio." Let's hope the ghost of Dragondarch doesn't infect Crystalis.
Please don't invoke that.
Hey,
Please.
you brought it.
I brought it, and it's alive now.
Putting this towards the Mushigira fight in Earthlock.
One quick thing I don't think we actually touched on, too, is the rules for this category, too, because it's listed on stream as any % no Wild Warp. I think, is it Nintendo Power we have to thank for it being called Wild Warp?
Oh, nice snipe.
I think so.
Because basically, if there's a code you can do that involves using the second controller that lets you actually just instant teleport to, I think it's 16 kind of preset
16 spots,
locations.
yes.
Yeah, so that changes up a lot of stuff, along with also just kind of making more of the run having to grind too, because of just being able to skip more story content. So this run just doesn't do that, and otherwise can do any kinds of glitches or skips possible.
It's definitely not glitchless.
Oh no, we have glitches.
I mean, he was glitching the game before the minute mark too, with the shop glitch. Yeah, and then every time he breaks one of these ice walls, the camera won't scroll or screen transitions won't happen until the animation finishes. So there's a bunch of cases where he's going to be kind of using that time to start up another sword charge.
All right, so I've broken all the ice walls I need to, so I can actually go into the menu again. But I'm going to wait until after these enemies. Please don't stab me. The swords really, really hurt.
Yeah, because he has no armor yet, by the way, too.
No.
And here comes RNG boss. I hate you.
Yes, this is General Kelbesk, the first kind of the Four Fiends equivalent of this game.
So in the speed run, this is going to be one of the toughest bosses.
Wow, nice.
He was kind.
Yeah, the first fight with General Kelbesk is one of the hardest boss fights in the whole run, especially just if he just plays hard to get and throws snowballs at you and stuff rather than just stand.
The safest strat for that fight is what I just did. You just tank damage and stay in his face as much as you can. You lose pretty much every battle of attrition with him. If you try to like run and hide and try to dodge around everything, he's gonna wear you down. You're gonna run out of healing before you can take him down.
So another point, that boss dropped the flame bracelet. Now in this game, the bracelet supersedes the ball, lets you charge to level 3. If you own the bracelet but don't equip it, you can charge to 2, which is what DD is at right now. So that completely kind of legitimizes the skip that we did earlier. So he actually skipped an entire mini boss that he needed to beat to get that ball, but now he's got the bracelet. That ball just completely doesn't matter.
Yeah, but if he were to go back and actually get the ball now, then that would eat the flame bracelet, because it only kind of tracks one item at a time.
It does weird things, and the game gets kind of angry. I've had it overwrite. I've had the ball of fire overwrite the ball of water, which was interesting.
Yeah, and then you just did the statue skip, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so anyway, that's another sequence break, too, where ordinarily you're meant to do kind of a series of fetch quests to get is it a fruit of lime?
Flute of lime.
The flute of lime, okay, to depetrify those people blocking that staircase. But just by it, I mean, it's actually really easy to do. You just go to the right and then hold down and left, and then just maybe you can explain the technical details of it.
So the way that it's coded, these people that are guarding doors, they push you back in the direction that you're facing. So if you walk diagonally down and left, you're facing down. So the guards.
No.
So the guards will push you up, and the door is up. So you get pushed into the door that they're trying to prevent you from getting to. And so you get this sequence break.
Hello?
Oh.
Controller's not agreeing with me right now. You respawned.
So this is fairly dangerous. These Medusas are worth a lot of experience. We couldn't hit them before with the fire sword. Now that we picked up the water sword, DD can kind of go back and forth and take them out. There's a whole bunch of them that spawn here. There's like 3 that spawn kind of in that top part, and another one that spawns a little further down in this section. And so we're just going to go back and forth there. Great way to get a lot of experience. They have this shot that can stone you. stoning would be really bad. If you're stoned in midair, they can't hurt you. You kind of just stay in midair. So paralysis here stops them, makes it a lot easier and a lot safer.
And when you notice him kind of wiggling around there, that's to respawn all of the Medusas, because like X-Man mentioned a bit ago, there's a kind of a hidden timer that controls when enemies respawn, and he's just kind of making sure that that timer runs down.
I'm also being super careful because these kill me in 3 hits. Like, these are really dangerous. Let's get out of here.
We're out of magic.
So did you say we're skipping the Flute of Lime?
Yes.
So I would like to apologize to Benimation in his $15 donation. He says, "Hi there. This is one of my favorite games of all time, partly because of the weirdest item of all time, the Flute of Lime. I'm hoping when it shows up, everyone can yell Flute of Lime. Thanks. I'm sorry. I have some bad news."
Fun fact, we skipped both of them.
That's right. There's actually 2. They're only one use, and there are 2 people that are stoned that you can unstone with the flute. So the Fruit of Lime unstones you. The flute unstones other people. So that's the 2 people that we kind of glitched through. And there's another NPC in that dungeon that you can. Very nice. There's another NPC in that dungeon that you can unstone to get a accessory item.
Yeah, and then we just saw the utility function of the Sword of Water there too. Once he has the level 2 charge, you can create ice bridges over certain rivers.
So this is the Carissa plant cave, and there's a lot of enemies in here. If we just get the enemies in our way, then there's a lot of experience that we'll get, and we won't need to do any grind sequences for a while because there's just so many enemies in our way. Except for those dragons. They're not worth a whole lot of experience. There's also a mechanic. So we've got 3 swords now. Each enemy is weak or strong. So the swords always do the same damage if they work. But every enemy is weak or strong to certain swords. So here we've got a lot of enemies that are weak against the fire sword. However, we need the wind sword to break these barriers. So there's a bunch of switching, which is why Dragondarch was talking about menu system.
Yeah, that's something that really separates top-level runners of this game, like Dragondarch, from others, is just how clean their menuing is, too. Just being able to just do it all without thinking about what he actually has to equip there.
So this manipulation of the teleport location is also a big tech that was discovered fairly recently.
Also by Overswarm, I might add.
Another reason I've got to redo the task. So when I made the task, I discovered a lot of these glitches and tricks. But a lot of other people have gotten in here, and there's a lot of things the task doesn't do that I've got to look at. But in the back here, we got the... Nice. So it's actually not a tough window. If you use the teleport spell, there's a 1-frame window. But with the boots, you can do it anytime when the dolphin leaves. Otherwise, you are stuck while the dolphin... you just have to sit there and watch the dolphin kind of slowly swim back to sea.
Yeah, because keep in mind, you did actually totally skip the teleport spell, which you normally learn in Mount Saber West, along with getting the tornado bracelet. So he does have to be pretty careful about his warp boot usage in order to be able to teleport without the spell.
So plot-wise, we met the queen. So the queen of that town is also one of the wise men, which are give us the spells and are part of some sort of rebel group facing off against the evil empire that's trying to find the castle in the sky. Something like that.
Yeah, it's hard to talk about the story to this game with how fast-moving the speedrun is, but yeah, I guess the Cliff Notes version is that just you're a hero awoken from a cryogenic sleep at the start, and you're getting involved with a rebellion against an evil empire called the Dragonian Empire that's trying to resurrect an ancient doomsday weapon called the Tower. And also the world ended in 1997, by the
That's
way,
right.
too, according to
Yep.
this game.
The end day, October 1st, 1997.
Just quite quickly, Axe. We've had a few people asking what a TAS is, and given our next run, do you want to give us a quick
I can, yes.
breakdown on what TAS means?
So in a TAS, instead of a controller being connected into the console, a robot is connected into the console. And the robot sends the signal that a controller would send, but since it's not a controller, it can do some interesting stuff, and it doesn't have to worry about things like how fast you can press. Also, what a TAS is, I think you can think of it as normally you make the TAS on an emulator, and the emulator can track the key presses exactly. So the emulator starts at a known state, and the game is sort of deterministic. So if we do the same key presses from the same known start state, we're going to get the same outcome. And
Yeah, so he's able to basically manipulate any kind of random event in the game to be exactly what he wants every time.
That's right. And for certain games, it turns out that the emulator is accurate enough that if we play those presses back into the console through the robot, which we call TASBot, that it will sync. And so we can actually play a task back on the real system instead of just an emulator.
And TAS stands for Tool Assisted Speedrun.
That's right, tool-assisted speedrun.
Yeah, because it's not a human being playing the game in real time. It's actually a kind of a series of controller inputs that's been programmed in advance and being replayed for you.
So the main place to find TAS is our site called tasvideos.org, tasvideos.org, and that's where you'll find all these TASes we've made over the years, including mine. I have quite a few. I've got my TAS on this game. I have a lot of commentary that explains all the tricks and glitches, including the one we're about to see. Well, actually, we got some grinding here.
Yeah, it'll be a little bit before that comes up.
Yes.
We got some turtles that are going to
Yeah.
be very, very sad today.
We should explain
Yeah.
the dolphin, though. So the dolphin, this friendly dolphin here that lets us ride us, he moves a lot faster than your normal character, and you can ride him along, fight these turtles.
Yeah,
And
turtles, man-o'-wars, killers, poisonous sea cabbages. It's up to you, basically, what these are.
It's an NES sprite.
That's
Use your
right.
imagination. Also, never mind the fact that I can hit way below them and still hit them. Their hitboxes are disjointed way below where they actually are.
yeah, the hitboxes in this game are a little. It's one of the things that I got a lot of Lua scripting in the TAS. But my advice is aim low. The hitbox is usually a little lower than you expect.
Yeah, when I saw a picture of what the spider's hitbox actually looks like, I laughed very hard.
Spider's hitboxes are something else.
Yeah.
So, I guess something worth pointing out about this grind he's doing here, too, is that he's having to kind of grind 2 dungeons worth of experience as far as what the game designers expected you to get to, because, spoilers, he's actually going to be doing another pretty significant skip after he's done here that's going to completely skip, going to, what is it called, Evil Spirit Island.
That's right.
And where you normally have your first encounter with Sabera, who's the second fiend.
Who are we talking about? I don't know this boss you're referring to.
So there are 4 kind of general tetrarchs of the evil empire that we're facing off against, and you're supposed to have to fight 3 of them twice, but we're gonna skip one of them fights, and the game doesn't matter so much. But the first one we fought was that green guy on the top of the mountain there. His name is General Kelbesk, or something like that.
Kielbasa.
Something
Let's
like
go with
that.
that.
Yeah, yeah. So we're gonna see him again, and then this fire witch that we are supposed to fight here. We'll see her a second time, or I guess the first time for us.
The first time for the second time for the last time.
Yes.
Yes. And the second time you fight them, spoilers, they'll have new attacks and everything, so it'll be a different fight.
And also considerably easier for reasons we'll get into
Octopus, you better spawn.
later.
Good.
There we go.
Make sure I get everything set up.
So this glitch is actually pretty tough to pull off. It takes it's 1 or 2 frames.
It is frame perfect. I've looked at it as much as I can. Third try, I will absolutely take.
So what he did, so basically what he was doing was basically jumping with the rabbit boots and then is it getting onto the dolphin on the same frame?
Exiting the dolphin. I need to jump with the rabbit boots. The frame I get off the dolphin because that one frame I'm still counted as over water. So the game lets me just kind of fly over it, and it's like, oh, you're still on the ocean. You need to be in the air.
Yeah, because the way the rabbit boots are programmed is that they're actually programmed the same way as the flight spell, which is the final spell that he's still a ways off from getting. But he only flies for one frame, basically, so it's just his jump instead of actually flying. But since you can't land on water, if he does that glitch and then goes out over water, the game just kind of lets him fly indefinitely until he goes over solid ground. Yeah. And then you use that to get behind that whirlpool without having to do the whole Sabera quest line.
So despite being level 11, these axe throwers still do quite a bit of damage because I still don't have armor.
So the axes, so there's actually two different types of damage in this game. There's shield damage and armor damage. So projectiles hit sort of a shield rating, and enemy like body attacks are gonna hit your armor. So if you get a shield, you get stronger defense against projectiles like the axes. And if you get armor, you get stronger defense against getting hit by enemies
these
directly.
guards don't really care that you just kind of turn into one of them and then turn back while they can still see you, too, after opening the gate. Yeah, don't worry about it.
That's why they're the guards at that gate. They weren't terribly good in town. So they're like, you deal with the checkpoint. And just report if anything suspicious happens.
Yeah, he also, because after getting the change spell from Kensu, he also went back a bit in order to get a quest item he'll be needing later.
Yeah, the Bow Moon is actually required, though they don't tell you that, and they just happen to have the Blizzard Bracelet down there, which I need for the next boss, so it's just convenient to go grab it right at that point.
So that change spell lets you turn into 4 different people, and technically there's kind of trigger tiles that you need to be changed for.
Free armor, by the way, too.
Yeah, we just bought some of the most powerful armor in the game for free. And then we got a discount on magic rings, which restore our MP completely.
Key to Stixie, by the way. We'll be going to the cave of Stixie next.
I'm just going to play it safe, grab a quick trip to the inn.
This game is actually translated pretty decently for an NES-era game, except for the key to Stixie.
Can I jump in with a couple of donations?
Go for it. Actually, we're going to have a grind session coming up like real quick here.
Yeah, maybe we could explain how the grind works exactly, and then we can kick it away.
Yeah, this is going to be the coolest grind section, and this is also the #1 spot where I said, no one's going to do this in real time.
Yeah, this is your baby, isn't it?
That's right. I actually, so I discovered this when I was routing the tasks. Considerably easier in a task. We're going to have to get into Stixie in a little bit here. We got the key to Stixie, and we're going to... Oh, so these slimes congeal. You know, if you're playing a task, the slimes tend to congeal just exactly when you need them, just coincidentally, you know. In Stixie here, we've got the first occurrence of these shooter things. We got the barrier spell, so we can just walk right through there.
And now we get to meet our friend Bert. Why is he named Bert? Why not?
Every important NPC in the game needs a name.
Yes, and this guy is way more important than a lot of the named characters in the game, too, so we just decided he had to have a name. So, you want to explain what exactly he's doing here now?
So remember how we said that some enemies spawn initially as soon as you enter the room? This is one of them. And so he spawns right when you enter the room, but the entrance to the room is right above him. So if you were to walk right in there, you would hit him right away. So you've got to jump with the rabbit boots. You jump over him, and then you can safely get him. And he's worth a lot of experience, something like 656?
672.
672. So we're going to get our levels pretty fast. We actually need to get a little more than just the next level. So we're going to be killing Bert a little while. So now, it's time for donations.
Alrighty, so we have a $50 donation from Thoringar, who says, my all-time favourite game from my childhood. Many long nights of insomniac gaming. great to see it shredded. Best of luck on the run. $15 from M-0, who just gives 3 little heart emojis. $10 from Ryu Bastion, who's an old friend of ours, who says, is it Crystalis or Crystalis?
Yes.
Who knows, but may the Draken be with you.
No.
Nobody wants Draken to be with them.
I have a $100 donation from Major Tom, who says, it may be hard to tell in a speedrun, but Crystalis has the best soundtrack out there of all the games on the NES. And then I just have an anonymous $250 donation.
Nice. So he does have to jump with a somewhat tight timing in order to get all the way over Bert without taking damage. But fortunately, if he does it too late and doesn't hear the start of the jump sound effect, you can actually just buffer up in order to go back out without taking damage.
I do want to point out, this is a lot trickier than it looks.
Yeah, especially doing it this fast, yeah.
Yeah, it's about a 2 or 3 frame window every time, over and over.
All right, we're done with Bert. He's everybody give a round of applause for Bert. He made a great showing today. Hey, Bert. Well, I also want to point out, he has a twin brother in the other hall on the other side of the area there. We call him, he's also named Bert, but with an E instead of a U. His parents weren't very creative. His father was named Bert with a Y, and his mother was Berta.
Or Bertha, yeah. Roberta.
Good blob. Let's see. Oh, got another blob.
And then we were about to get
Good.
the Sword of Thunder, too, which is the whole reason we came here.
Or if you're playing the GBC version, Sword of Chunker.
Yeah, and just jumping on these spikes to avoid taking terrain damage.
Also, those moths have some of the highest contact damage in the game. You don't want to let them hit you. Get down here.
Again, he's resetting there in order to both to not lose the warp boots out of his inventory and also to kind of mess up where the game loads him into the town. Now we get the world's fastest invasion. Because everything was good in Chiron when we left. Now, not so much. Oh, I guess we didn't get to see the carnage yet, too. Okay, this is Mado then,
Ate that
the
one.
water-themed general.
So you're seeing the level 3 water attack. At level 3, all of your swords get a special attack that is pretty impressive.
It does drain your MP though, so you can't
That's
just kind of
right.
spam it recklessly.
But we did buy a bunch of magic rings that restore our MP completely, so we're pretty good on magic. Next up, we're going to the Desert Oasis, where there is a cave in this oasis, and
We're going to hope I don't get paralyzed 60
Yeah.
times.
yeah.
And for reasons that we'll see in the next dungeon after this, I think you're really not intended to come here at this point, too. I think you're intended to come here after Goa Fortress.
Yeah, I mean, the exit to Goa Fortress, the normal... Oh, hi! They're ready. No, no.
Oh!
They are so ready right
Yeah,
now.
yeah. These insects, not really too dangerous as far as just like killing you, but they can paralyze you with their like pollen attack. And you would think that paralysis in an RPG would mean that you can't move, but that's actually what the stone status condition does in this game. Paralysis makes it so that you can't charge your sword, which is a pretty big problem in a dungeon where you need to create a lot of ice bridges, and then eventually also break a thunder wall, I think as we call them.
On the other hand, if you have task level reflexes, they're pretty good for experience.
No, keep them away. Keep them away. They can keep their experience.
I need to take those off.
Yeah. So the reason he went there was to get the power ring, which it will eventually be a required story item, but getting it as early as possible, as in after you have the ball of thunder, lets some really fun stuff happen here.
Oh, yes.
So we've got all the boss refights in this dungeon here, but getting extra attack power is also going to help with grinding, just killing these enemies faster, getting that experience.
Because we are starting to come into the end game, too. This is a pretty short game, especially if you're just blitzing through it like this.
Especially if you found some new glitches.
Yes!
Yeah.
Whoever would do that?
Yeah, so he's just about to refight General Kelbask after hitting level 13.
Oh, really? Gotta get rid of that. That's fine.
So this recover spell we got a while back, we can recover from any of the status ailments, but it takes a little time to go through the menu, equip it, and then you probably have to go back
Alright,
and
then
equip something
remember
else.
how deadly Kelbask was when we fought him on Mount Saber? That's the power ring.
Yeah, the power ring adds basically your level to your attack power. It's the most, the biggest difference is actually on Sabera, who has a 13 defense. And if I didn't have the power ring, I'd only have 17 attack power, so I'd be doing 4 damage per stab. With the power ring, I do 17. So she takes literally 1/4 as many hits.
So DD's probably listening for that flail right now. I don't hear it, so I think he despawned.
I don't want the flails to despawn. I want the insects to despawn, because there's those mosquitoes that throw pollen. Those are in here too. And the flail guys, they don't occupy the spawn slot of the mosquitoes, but their flails will take up a spawn slot. And if the flail guys spawn early enough, they'll just straight up despawn the insects, which is what I want. And it looks like I got lucky enough that they didn't spawn. Unlike SGDQ 2013, where they absolutely did spawn. And I'd never seen them in this room before.
Again, those insects are great for experience if you have task level reflexes.
If.
So here we've got Sabera. This is the one that we skipped earlier. Let's see how hard she is the second time.
Hello?
Uh-oh.
Oh, whoops, wrong spell. This is fine. Improvised.
Yep.
Very good. Very nice improvisation.
You get a Fruit of Repun drop, which is the only like easy way to fix a certain status ailment that we haven't seen yet.
That we hope we don't see.
That we hope that we don't see
We
too.
really hope we don't see it.
Yep.
Yeah. So for speedrunning this game, the complication of the experience and just all the things, so enemies despawning and other things that can happen, like we were talking about the insect spawning. There's a lot of variation that you'll have to kind of improvise around, and as far as figuring out how to get these guys to spawn.
Because like every time he's looping back and forth, he's hugging that bottom wall as closely as he can to keep the spider's spawn point off screen, just as far as efficiently as possible.
Yeah.
I'm delaying there because it fired a shot which could have prevented it from spawning, so I needed to give it a little bit more time to spawn that time.
Yeah, you notice we're picking up the gold every time, even though we're not going to be buying anything else.
Really? It's not lethal at this point, but it won't go away either, so I gotta get rid of it.
You either use the recover spell, an antidote, or you stay in, and that's otherwise you stay poisoned until you run out of health.
So this could take a little while. We could have another donation or two.
I'm actually
Oh,
done,
right.
but go right ahead.
So, I have $50 from Mike's mom, who says, thanks for doing this for a great cause. And $10 from Demarine, who says, hey, Dragondarch, sad you can't finish the run at level 9. Love for the rando, too.
Alright, so I've got enough that I'm going to be able to get the rest of the level on the way to it, provided we call this place the Hellway. Hopefully it doesn't live up to its name. I'm just praying at this point.
Yeah, because I believe he does need to be level 14 for the Mado refight.
Here's the first part of the Hellway.
Yep.
A butterfly that buzzes right at you. We're going to use the level 3 sword attack to clear this out.
Because I believe these Spectre enemies are invincible outside of like just very specific types of sword charges.
You have to use any level 3 sword charge will reveal them. Only some of them actually damage them, and fire is one of them. So using that level 3 fire charge gets...
and they are massive jerks too,
yes.
because they can camp out near the where you come off of the the moving platforms, and they can shoot you too, I believe. And if you get hit while you're on a platform, then you just fall right through it, and
Yep.
that's
why I have barrier running when I get off of them. I want to make sure I don't fall through them.
And that was perfect experience routing, getting the last level we need right before
he needs it.
So you don't want to do this fight without the bracelet attack, unless you're in a task.
Yeah.
Actually, Overswarm's been playing around with it without it, but I don't think it's really any faster, and we can't skip the bows, so we might as well get the bracelet.
The bracelet was in the basement of the Amazon's Chiefess, where we got the bow of Moon, and so it's not far out of the way because that bow of Moon is totally required. So here we just really need to kill everything on our way.
Yeah, and he does need to paralyze these skeletons in order to be able to kill them quickly, otherwise they just fall apart and you have to wait on them.
The skeletons have a unique property where if you attack them, they fall apart and then you can't hit them for a while. But if you paralyze them, it's sort of they just stay still. In fact, they don't even have the pushback that most enemies have, so it's actually really easy to take them out.
And he's trying to spawn these brown slimes here, which I think are the highest non-boss enemy in the game for experience. But it's very, very inconsistent as far as if they'll actually like show their face without you having to sit and wait on it.
Really? I didn't have that much trouble in the task.
Yeah. All right, so then this is Carmine, the final general.
So DD moved back a little bit for that shot. He didn't want to get
slimed.
Yes. So the barrier, if the enemy shot appears on top of you, your barrier won't protect you.
Yeah, because it's interesting how they programmed the barrier in this game. It doesn't just make you invincible to the projectiles it protects against. It actually has its own kind of hitbox that the projectiles need to actually touch in order to despawn.
It should also be noted that it shuts off for 1 frame every 8 frames, so sometimes things will still get through.
Yes.
Can I fit in one quick donation, really quick?
Go for it.
I have a donation for $10 from 2 stone people in Waterfall Cave, who says, "Hey there, we can't wait for the runner to stop by and turn us back from stone. I hear there's this hot new Flute of Line track we should love to hear. Just waiting here at Waterfall Cave. Hope to see you soon."
Oh, I saw you all right. I'll be back someday.
One day.
Really, you had to move that way, didn't you?
So now we're back on Mount Hydra, where we first were here for the Styxy Cave. Now we're going to be climbing to the summit of the mountain, where we'll find a required quest item.
Just for that, I'm not killing you.
I think this is one of the more kind of obscure ones just to find at all playing the game blind too.
There's not a lot of hints that you should come up here and get this item.
Yeah, and it needs to specifically be after getting the flight spell from Carmine too, or I guess technically from Kensu.
Yeah, we haven't seen flight yet, but it's actually like the most useful spell. It's really useful in combat. Almost as useful as paralysis.
Paralysis, I've noticed a lot of people like playing this casually just never really use the spell that much.
I never did playing this game as a kid.
But it's extremely useful in the speedrun at just keeping enemies from moving around and doing that. This is poison percent now, by the way. just want to point that out.
Well, this doesn't have FF1 poison sounds associated with it.
Make one last safety trip to the inn. I mean, I'm not worried about money at this point, so...
Yeah, whenever he's staying at inns, really the main reason is to get his magic back. Because you can burn through that pretty fast using the refresh spell to heal.
And Barrier uses it pretty fast, and Flight uses it up, and Paralysis is 4 points of magic every use, so it drains pretty quick.
So there's an interesting consequence of the skip that I noticed DD's taking great advantage of. When you equip in the menu, so with the teleport spell, teleport's a spell, so you're going to have to equip that instead of one of your other spells. but since the warp boots are an item, he's able to equip the warp boots and change something else in the menu. So he's done a great job of routing this to reduce the number of menus, using those boots and another item very efficiently, going through the menu and avoiding kind of a second menu after the teleport.
Yeah, and then these scorpions here are going to be pretty much the last like serious grinding segment for the rest of the run, because actually the max level in this game is only 16. And he's going to be going most of the way there on these scorpions when he's heading for the pyramid, which is the next to last dungeon.
Wow, I'm getting a lot of despawns on these guys.
So yeah, I mean this looks pretty straightforward as far as just kind of using the flight spell so that they can't hurt him, and then stabbing with the Sword of Thunder. But doing this as fast as possible is pretty technical as far as just kind of lingering while the spawn triggers for the scorpions are off screen, but not waiting too long to lose time.
So because of how the game is coded, when you're either jumping with the rabbit boots or flying with flight, you can still stab enemies. Very convenient.
Okay, that'll be enough.
At the same time, they can't hurt you because you're flying.
Shoutouts to this music, by the way, my favorite part of the soundtrack, personally.
There's so many good ones. My favorite is the mountain.
I actually like the tower myself. Oh, scorpion.
So this first pyramid, we're going to fight another end boss. Finally, he's the emperor of the evil empire that we're rebelling against. And we can't go anywhere without killing these enemies for experience.
Yeah, because we do need to reach level 16, the max level, in order to finish the game. And that's the evil empire, or emperor. For now.
Would he be the first evil emperor to ever come back for a second round?
Nah.
Evil emperors have a way of doing that, you know? So I guess that was the pyramid. This is the crypt.
Crypt, yeah.
Where is it? Oh, wait. The
yeah,
bow.
I was gonna say.
I'm looking around like,
Yeah.
where's the bow?
There's two of them.
Did I get those?
Good.
This is a pretty easy way to get trapped playing this game casually, too. Just get, because yeah, this is a kind of a quote-unquote mini-boss where these two statues need to be destroyed with the bows of Sun and Moon, but the game doesn't really tell you too hard just how to get through that room.
Can't you see that little icon that says a bow and a moon right there?
And then these warlocks, I think they're called.
Yep. That's what we call them.
Don't mess with these, because
Oh no!
yeah, they can slime you just like Carmine, and he does have one fruit of Ripun in order to fix that. But
I don't know how I didn't get hit by that one.
That was pretty lucky.
I think I need 4 more, so I can skip you.
So they're worth a lot of experience, but they also take a lot of hits.
And they're only vulnerable to the Sword of Wind, which is the weakest sword. Okay, good. You didn't spawn. That means I need all 4 of the other ones.
So the swords aren't completely balanced. Each sword has its own attack power, and they get higher attack power in increasing in the order that you find them.
and I believe they can still hit you with their slime beam even if you're flying too.
Yep, they can.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so level 16 just in time for Dragon 2.
That's another great routing job. The routing is kind of that experience routing is really the most important thing.
Okay.
And
All right, good luck. I mean, that hit was intentional, by the way, to try to manipulate a favorable pattern from Dragon 2.
big RNG. Everyone prayed RNGs this year.
Yes, because Dragon 2 can only be damaged when he opens his chest.
Unfortunately, we're not getting the best pattern. We're going to look for him to charge at us.
He is having a lot of fun. right
Yep.
now.
Unfortunately, one of the worst patterns.
Open sesame.
Please. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, so unfortunately, pretty bad luck there, but for the pattern that he got, that was very, very well played.
Those stab strats, they're also pretty high in the category of, task tech that somehow made it, somehow you're able to do it.
Yeah, because I think the way you're intended to do that fight is to use the third level charge of the Sword of Thunder, which does a, well, we might be seeing some of it, right?
Oh, we will.
Okay. Yeah, it does a full screen thunderstorm, or lag storm, as we also call it, too, because it does lag this poor NES
I
pretty
am not going to
badly.
be able to do that because the helicopter showed up at the exact wrong time. Get away from me! These helicopters are one of the worst enemies in the game. I should be able to make this work, though.
Yeah, so so now we are in the tower, the Doomsday weapon that was kind of the focus of the story, and in order to actually progress up the tower, we need to kill first all of the brown robots and then all of the silver ones.
So it'll be 3 brown robots and 6 silver ones on each floor. And we want to look for a little luck for these brown robots to move together so that we can get them, group them up, get them in the same lag storm.
Yeah, and then ideally, too, he saves time by doing this right here, by catching all of the silver robots right as they're spawning and then just stabs them. Because that not only saves time from lag from the thunderstorm animation, but it also kind of reduces the number of times he has to go into the menu to use magic rings. Because the thunderstorm does use a lot of MP.
In the tasks, I don't even bother getting that thunder bracelet. All stabs all the time.
Okay, you keep coming left, buddy. Oh, good. You're going right. That is perfect.
Nice.
Oh. 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 We're gonna play this a little safer. Okay, that was a little dicey. It's a little risky trying to do that because there's projectiles can spawn in inside my hitbox, or well, more accurately, past the barrier's hitbox.
Yeah.
And even if it touches the barrier's hitbox, it'll disappear. But if it touches my hitbox at the same time, it'll still do damage. And
Alright.
everything here does a lot of damage.
So we're at the top of the tower. We combined our swords into one sword, and now it's time for the final boss.
And time is on the screen fade out.
That was the final boss, but
Yeah.
And time.
Sub-hour in a marathon.
Woo! 59-17. I'll take it.
Yeah, congrats.
I will absolutely take a sub-hour.
So the ranks of sub-hour runners of Crystalis is about 3 right now?
There are 3. Myself, Overswarm, and True Blue are the only 3 with sub-hours right now. And myself and Overswarm are the only 2 with sub-59s. Okay, so the route wasn't a complete disaster.
Yes.
Yeah, it went pretty well.
Went as well as it could have with a lot of poison. Holy crap. Once again, another shout out. I gotta give another shout out to Overswarm for finding that so recently and putting me through the last 2 days of having to reroute this for the marathon. Because I thought about it for a moment. I'm like, I could just do the old route. I'd be more comfortable with it. I'd be more practiced for it. And I'm like, nah, I'm gonna be an idiot.
Nah.
I'm just gonna be dumb and reroute this thing 2 days before the marathon and try to make it work. And it went way better than I was expecting, so I can't complain. Also, thank you to Puexel and Axeman for doing commentary for me. This is a really hard game for me to commentate by myself because there's just so much going on, and if I lose focus too much, I end up ramming my face into enemies, which doesn't work.
We have the most important credit coming up soon, by the way. Too.
Oh, yes.
Right. Yeah.
Shout out to Jeff Peters.
Jeff Peters.
Anyone else you want to thank?
I also want to give one shout out to. I want to give two shout outs actually. One to the Crystalis randomizer community that has popped up as of like the beginning of this year. And another big shout out to Steve Hacks, who is the creator of the Crystalis randomizer, who we have actually, he's been reverse engineering the game itself, like looking right into the code, and has found a number of really useful things that we never knew prior to this. But the randomizer itself is actually really, really fun. If you think this looks crazy, imagine having items wherever the heck they feel like being and having to go hunt those down and all the other crazy changes he put in, including making Dinah a real fight.
Whoa, wow, I haven't seen that yet. Yeah.
But if anyone's actually interested in trying out the randomizer, just go to crystalisrandomizer.com and you can play right there. We've got a Discord if you want to join it. Both me and Axeman are in there. But other than that, I got nothing. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Thanks for putting Crystalis in again. I'm always happy to show this off, and I'll send it off there.
And then with that, let's hear it one more time for Dragondarch. And with that, we are going to be setting up for the taskbot run. Our technology experts are going to be working on that while I take us over to a commercial break. We are RPG Limit Break 2019, sponsored by Twitch, and we'll see you on the other side. welcome back from that commercial break, everybody. My name's Bob the Ninja Goldfish, and I'm going to be hosting for this TASBot block. Well, TASBot game run. You can never quite tell with TASBot. We have a $20 donation from Sharky, who says, this game has a bow and a bracelet. How about a raft and a whistle? Or a Triforce? Game looks fun. Thanks for showing it off. And if you are looking to help out the marathon, there are many ways you can do it by going to rpglimitbreak.com/donate. Donating some money there. You could head over to the yeti.com. That's the Yeti as in YETEE.com/RPGLB. Buying yourself a snazzy looking t-shirt, $4 of which from each t-shirt will be donated towards RPG Limit Break. And even if you can't afford to do any of that, just tweet about us, talk about us on social media, use the hashtag RPG Limit Break, RPGLB 2019, and link the stream, and try and bring in some fresh eyes, because we've had a bunch of new viewers this week, and that's awesome, and we want to share the good words of RPGs and Nami to as many people as we can. And I appreciate each and every one of you out there in chat. And we aren't just streaming to this channel, we do have some foreign language restreams. Our French stream over at twitch.tv/LaFrench Restream, a German restream at twitch.tv/German Restream, and a Japanese stream over at twitch.tv/Japanese_Restream. Big shout outs to all the folks watching foreign languages and enjoying the run alongside us. She was gracious enough to donate up to us in the last run. So it's about time for us to give her another massive shout out to LLK. She's a long-time contributor to both GDQ Marathons and here at RPG and Limit Break. She's the designer of our promo banners, our attendee badges, and a whole bunch of our emotes. If you want to check out more of her work, head over to jazzaboo.com. That's JAZAABOO.com.